So on the panel, as everyone has seen, we have Miss Zilfa Irakoze. Zilfa is a PhD candidate in food science and international agriculture and development at Penn State University. Zilfa.
Hey everybody, good evening to people in Rwanda. Good morning to people who are at like 9 a.m. Thank you guys so much for having me. My name, like Jan said, my name is Zilfa Irakoze. I am Rwandan. I am a dual title PhD candidate at Penn State University. I am doing food science and international agriculture and rural development. I was born and raised in Kigali, Rwanda. Just to give you a little bit of glimpse of like what my journey has looked like for me to be here. I guess as a PhD student, kind of we're talking through like the transition to grad school, so it makes like easier, like as we connect to each other. So I went to high school in Rwanda, did my 6 years as a groupe scolaire officiel de Butare in that currently. Then I came, I did my undergrad at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in integrated sciences, where conservation, agriculture, and so many other things as well. And then I did my master's at Kansas State University. I'm now doing a PhD at Pennsylvania State University. I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I hope, my little experience can help people. Like my DMs are always open. My email, I can share with you guys my emails if you have further questions or anything. But yeah, feel free to ask the questions, and I'm really, really excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Zilfa. So to go on, first of all, I'm gonna ask this question, and I want you guys to really share in few minutes as you can. And let me start with Zilfa. I know you have went from high school in Rwanda and you've done your undergrad here, and then you have done your master's and then your PhD. This is a different experience, and everyone on this Zoom, as you can see, we have people with different backgrounds and different experiences. So please connect to someone you feel like that's a pathway that you're interested in. Zilfa, can you tell me when you transitioned from your undergrad to master's and then to PhD, first of all, how did you decide what major to take? And then how did you research and shortlist universities and program, under your academic and career goals? And this question, everyone, please, you're gonna be answering it. And I'll start with Zilfa.
Thanks, Jan. So that's a two-part questions. One, how did I decide my transition progress, and then how did I shortlist schools?
Yes.
Okay, so like I said, I did my undergrad. So like I think I will start with like just the journey to go to grad school in general, like how I even decided to do my master's to start with, because I remember as an undergrad, I did integrated sciences, which again, it has conservation agriculture. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It has conservation agriculture. It has leadership and entrepreneurship, but I was doing a minor in food science. So I've known for a long time I really wanted to do something in sustainable like food safety area, but I didn't know if I wanted to go to grad school. I think my third year I went to Rwanda to do my internship, like my junior year, like the year before I went to grad school. So when I went to Rwanda, I was doing technical research, and then I realized that I wanted to do more. Like I was strictly a technician, and I realized that I wanted to do more. I wanted to call the shots more. I wanted to be in a position to like help more and learn more when it comes to like understand the research aspect of things better, but also like, really be in a position to call the shots versus just being a technician, period. So then that's when I decided. But then again, a PhD, Jen, I don't know how you did it. A PhD was a huge commitment on my end. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to jump from my undergrad to a PhD. I was like, I don't know what that's going to look like. I want to dip my toes in and see what that looks like and see if I like it or not. So that's kind of how I decided to start with a master's versus like going directly to a PhD, because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to commit to all these years and like all this experience. So, I was like, I'm going to start with my master's. So when I went, how I really shortlisted schools for my PhD looks a little bit different because I really wanted this school for specific reasons. But for my master's, I was really open for like any universities that was taking students, as long as the professor was doing research and things I was interested in. So my first step, really like anybody else, I looked around my connection. Did I know anyone who knew someone that was doing research in food safety? So what I do right now is like looking at like making sure what food safety is just looking at the supply chain and making sure like microorganisms, there is no food loss, food waste. There is no hazardous diseases causing microorganisms in the supply chain. So then I looked in my surroundings. Like I had professors that I had went to school with. Like if you went to school in LAU has like the most big networking system. And not to speak for like I have a couple of friends that went there. So like my first thing was my mentors and professors that I was working with. Do you know anyone? Like technically, like express my interest to go to grad school, because again, those were going to be my recommenders. Just expressing my interest to go to grad school. Does anybody know, like, do you know anyone that's doing research in this that you would recommend me? So when I started asking, I got connected to a couple of people, but my biggest way to do it was I went directly on Google. Like literally, apart from looking at my mentors, I went directly to Google's, and I'd be like food science schools in the US, right? And then I'd be like, and then it would downstream it to like, oh, here is all the food science schools and how they're rated. Like my biggest thing was like I was gonna like shoot really high, like one big school, really like average school, like one big school, and then maybe like two okay, like average school where like the research is still great, the resources are still great. But again, not all of us are gonna make it to Harvard. Harvard is also not like what Harvard for me is like UC Berkeley for the food scientists. Like not all of us are gonna make it into like UC Berkeley, right? Like we might, and you have a shot. That's why you're like, okay, I'm gonna apply to UC Berkeley, but I'm also gonna apply to like other like schools with higher acceptance rates, which again, shoot your shot regardless of where you want to go. But like again, also like give yourself good chances in a lot of places, right? So then again, I just looked it up and I was like, okay, as a graduate student, what they're looking for, especially if you're trying to do a research assistantship versus a teaching assistantship, is do you know what you want to do? And I would advise against going to grad school, period, if you do not know why you're going to grad school, because it can really be excruciating. So what I did, I knew exactly what kind of research and where I wanted to go. I didn't know exactly, oh my gosh, I want to work with this bacteria that does this, no. But I knew I had an idea of like food safety was the path that I wanted to take. So I looked into professors who were doing food safety researches at the schools I had found on Google. And then I just sent a mass email to like different professors, like, saying I'm interested in like doing grad school. Are you taking students? I'd love to do an information interview about you, to hear about you. And we can talk more about like the whole process of it. But yeah, that's kind of like how I streamlined and like decided what school to go to.
Thank you so much. I want to highlight something that Zilfa just said. Food science, Berkeley is on top more than Harvard. So graduate school is different from undergrad. So depending on what concentration you want to go to, please look at which school is known in this. It's not about the big names, it's about what type of research and how are they funded in this type of research. So thank you, Zilfa, for that. And I think someone asked a question to Zilfa. Did you email professors after your master's to transfer to your PhD or before? Like, what was your timeline of emailing professors for your master's and your PhDs? Like, when did you do that?
That sounds really good. And I think we could also just overall just talk timeline and important documents as well. Yep. Go through the application process. I'm going to talk specifically at like reaching out for like interests, because like one of the biggest things is like it also costs money to apply to university, right? Like and I know like speaking, and I'm obviously speaking from a place of privilege, I know it can be very expensive to take your $65 or like $100 to some universities, knowing that there is no guarantee for you to go there, right? So like one of the things that made my conscience at least easier was having that little approval or interest from the professors I was eventually going to work with. And that's kind of like a little different again from the US perspective versus like the EU perspective, right? Speaking from the US perspective is like they want like someone almost kind of if someone wants you, it's so easy for you to get into a university, right? And you can get into a university without talking to a professor specifically. You absolutely can. It's easier and almost like kind of guaranteed if someone tells you, I'd love for you to work in my lab. Like the application process, it's not like someone's going to look into your documents and say, no. If someone wants you, they will get you to their university. So I think for me, the first step was to reach out to these professors. I was going to apply regardless, but like if I'm being real, like I really put my coin in places where there were people that were like, okay, like I'm interested in what you look like apply, then we can talk. That's good. The fact that I even got a response from that person was even slightly better, and it was motivating to me. So what I did this summer for my master's, again, it looks different for my master's and my PhD. What I did for my master's was, so the application process is usually due in December for intakes. So if you want to go to school next August, again, it looks different from different places. Some places start in September, some places start in August. But like for intake, a lot of applications are usually due like generally December 15th, right? And that's kind of like big general. So what I did, I started reaching out to professors. I want to say in like the last semester of my senior year, like the fall and the spring semester of my senior year were used to significantly start up like so the year before, because my application had to be in December 15th the year before, right? So like I used the summer and this fall semester to reach out to like different professors. So like really my summer was used to significantly reach out to a lot of different professors. I sent mass emails to like different professors, and you do it before. If you still want, like you have a professor that you're really interested in and you end up applying, you can also do it after. Like your application is in and you're like, hey, I put in my application, but I would strongly recommend that you reach out to professors before you put in your application. Still go ahead and put in the application if you can't hear, especially if you have multiple people you're interested in, because some people can get busy and not reply. Go ahead and put in the application, but like it's so relieving if you're able to hear from a people. It also speaks volume if a person can email you back as about an advisor, if they can email you back and say, I have no position, or like I can't guarantee nothing, but put in an application. So when I heard from people, it kind of motivated me. So I did put in the application for my reaching out to different professors. Like so like literally I like a couple like 8 months before the application was due to like see if professors were taking students in the fall.
All right. I think I would jump in here and say something. As Zilfa just said, your statement purpose or personal statement, recommendation letters, your CV, they're a really big deal in this type of application. If you want to look as a strong candidate, you want to work on these documents way earlier and have people actually check them. I would say that if you want to start school in the US, people come in August and then people come in January. There's those two intakes, but usually the January intake depends on a school. Not a lot of schools have those January intakes. So August intake is usually the big one. And I would say that the timeline of applying really depends on how quickly can you get your documents together, how quickly can you get recommenders. I would tell you, I started my PhD in 2021. I started the process. I submitted my application in 2020 December, but I started my whole process in August of 2019. I know it was so early, but really you need to reach out to your professors way early and let them know I will need recommendation at this time. So usually the deadline in the US is December 1st, December 15th, January 15th. So you need to look at each school and when is the deadline. And also it's fast come, first serve in graduate school. So if you wait and apply in January, you might find that probably the amount of student they wanted is already done. Once you get the interview, they start in the deadlines at December 1st, 15th. In February, I had my first interview. So I want to show you that it's only a few months after you submit your application. That's why it's fast come, first serve. So I always recommend people apply as the earliest deadline. Don't wait out like the latest deadline to submit your application. And again, give yourself 6 months at least. People who do, I'm not saying people who apply 4 months or 2 months before are not successful, but you will be under a lot of stress, you know. So Zilfa, I'm going to let you have the stage, and please like tell people in general, you know, whatever you want to talk about this application, and leave your email if you want for them to reach out.
Thank you so much, Jen. This was such a great, like, it's such a great time, and I've heard of like a lot of people. It's good to put faces onto people's names. And I think personally, if I was going to like, and I have like, I have like a couple mentees too that I currently already work with. The first thing I always say is, like Julia said, really truly ask for recommendation letters early and ask them from people you know you. If they don't, and I understand, because sometimes you need like 3 recommendation letters and you have a really close relationship with like 2 people, send them your CV. So CV is a good guidance on who you are as a professional. So like if a person is going to write about you as a professional and they don't know anything about you, if you send them like a CV, a really well written CV, they have a good basis for them to like let them know, like, or like just like an like I usually sometimes if I know like this person is like Zilfa is a passionate student and I just know that's not gonna cut it, I like send prompts. I'm like, so here is the things I just said in this whole application. If you could highlight this from a person that know me, that would be great, right? Like you kind of give them like guidance of like either your CV might do, or just really put in like a couple paragraphs of like, hey, like I've worked with this and this and this, and I really think this will be a great like opportunity for me because of this. And like if you have a statement of purpose or personal statement, beautiful, give it to them. That again, have a conversation with them, send them your statement of purpose or personal statement, and send them your CV. It gives them an insight into who you are and makes them kind of like write a stronger recommendation letter versus, oh, I know Zilfa. Zilfa's a passionate student. Zilfa looks like a leader. That don't help you in any way, shape, or form. Like you need specifically, I've worked with Zilfa and I know she has research and passion in this and this, like all of that, right? And if I was going to advise you, and I really wish I could stay because this has been such a great time, I would say really focus on your statement of purpose. I mean, or personal statement, depending on what the school is, right? Don't make it general. Like, I don't want to hear that, oh, I was the best student in my school. That's beautiful. But like, let me read that personal statement and hear who you are. I've always classified them like there is like a lot of resources, right? Like on the internet, on like look at these specific questions. Here is how my interest started. I think there's like a good 5 questions I think can help you guide and make your statement of purpose yourself. Like, here's how kind of like I got interested in this thing to begin with, right? Like, here's what I've done like to pursue that interest. Here is like why I want to do a PhD. Here is how it matches into my goals. Here is who the professor I want to work, what they do, and how they match my interest as a career. Like, right, there is so many resources on the internet. There's so many resources for you to make it about you. Do not be scared to look up information. Like, because all of the me, Zilfa, I can tell you a lot of things, but there's nothing I'm going to invent. I'm not inventing no new ropes. I can give you an experience, but someone has put it out there. Don't be scared to look up a lot of these things. And I think one of the things that make us, it's like when I work, especially with like people like who are back home or like even here, it's just the fear of like looking up this information. Me and Diane know things, but we don't know as much as the things that are already out there, right? Like if you were specifically like, oh, statement of purpose in the US, like on the YouTube, there is someone who's lived in Ghana who's made their whole life on YouTube to like take you through this. And I was looking at it and I was like, these are bomb resources. Like I'm learning things I didn't even know. You know what I mean? There's resources out there. Really don't be scared to dig, right? Like application deadlines. It looks different from different places, right? Your first resource is your school. When the school puts out the application, don't be scared. If you have an internet or you can go to Kigali car free zone, I hear there's like free Wi-Fi there. Like if you can find a place where you find a free Wi-Fi and you're like blessed enough to either have a phone or a laptop or whatever it is that you're using, like Google, really just go at the school and look at their application deadline. Like they will tell you everything you need to know. Like they will tell you exactly what they want to see in your statement of purpose. They will tell you a lot of things that you know. So like my biggest advice to my mentees is like, don't be scared to look into the resources on the internet. Come to me, because me, if I know you, it's easier for me to guide you. Again, I can tell you what Penn State look for. I can tell you, like, for example, when I was looking into my PhD, it looks different for everyone. So like my 2 biggest advice is for the application process at least, right? For the application process is really pay attention to the 3 documents that Jen highlighted in the comments. Give it time. Do not take 1 month and like start putting documents together in October and they're due in December. Really do not. Take the time. Like I'd rather you take 2 years in advance than just like rushing through it, because like the amount of copies you go through for something to make sense and look perfect and like grammatically correct and everything, it will take you time, right? So take the time to give yourself enough time to get things started, pull the documents together, and don't be scared. There's resources on the internet. You really do not need a specific specific person to carry you through the ropes. Like, you are capable of finding all these resources that might help you better understand them, but you're very much capable of like finding them and making such a beautiful application document than I can even. Third, really know who you are. I do not there's one, like, especially if you're gonna go to grad school. I can speak for like myself as a graduate student. It's a perseverance journey. You can be the smartest kid in the room and you might not make it. It's a journey of understanding who you are. We all have it in us. Like, genuinely everyone has it in them to do grad school. If you know why you're doing what you're doing, I think Julius mentioned this, like knowing yourself as a person is truly critical, especially on like days where research is not moving. I do not want to scare you in any way, shape, or form, but like on the days where things get rough, on the days where you like the application process, you don't have the money, you can't find recommenders. On those days, you're pushed by the grit, you're pushed by the need to become a certain person. If you know who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing, versus like, I think I want to go to the US, period, right? Like, when things get rough, it's going to be really hard. You want to go home. Like, some days I want to go home. It's beautiful, but I really want you to look inside of yourself, and it makes a compelling application package too, when you really know who you are and why you want to do what you want to do. Your story looks different from my story. Desire's story looks different from Diane's story. What makes us, what pushes us, and what pushes you doesn't always have to be scientific. On days where I get really sore, I look at my little sister who's 17 and I'm like, I really kind of want her to have someone who's been through this and have made it. Family will push you, where you come from, who you are, everything. Like, just know what your why is, because you're going to significantly need it when things get rough, and during your whole application process, it's going to push you to find the best. I think a couple of people have already found me on my LinkedIn. Found me on, like, my LinkedIn is Zilfa Irakoze. It is nice to meet everyone. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'd love to help you how I can help you. I'll send you, like, Jan, also like my email as well, so like you can share it with everyone. And yeah, it was so nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me.